senior free. So, senior 3 class, I welcome you once again for yet another lesson of geography. And as usual, we are looking at the geography of East Africa, particularly human geography. You wonder why we are concentrating much on East Africa. It is because we believe when we compare paper 2 and paper 1, we believe that we still have some good amount of work to do in paper 1. Remember, we have the practical bits, that is a map work, field work, and photographic interpretation that we have not handled. And it may not be practically easy for us to do such areas using this system. So in this program, we shall so much emphasize East Africa, because what we want is to cover much of it, so that when we get back to school, practically when we interface, we try as much as we can to go through the practical bits of geography. So this morning, I want to invite you to another topic of human geography of East Africa, and this is fishing. We talked about mining, we talked about tourism. So today we want to look at the concept of fishing in East Africa. So we are aware that fishing is one of the human activities that are traditional almost in every society, especially where we have water bodies existing. So we want to see how this activity is done in East Africa, what has favored its practice, and what are the benefits. As you know, that human geography is more on such aspects. That is the aspects of factors, contributions of benefits, problems, and measures of solutions to problems facing that particular activity. So today, as we look at the fishing industry in East Africa, and I want to very quickly say, when we say industry, some people, when we say fishing industry, we are referring to a sector, fishing industry or fishing sector. This word industry is used as an alternative to a sector. So an industry is not necessarily buildings or structures where some processing is done. Now, in this context of geography, although we have industrialization, that's when we talk about industries, but when we say an industry, we are referring to a collection or a set of activities that lead to the same output. So all activities that are involved in fishing collectively are referred to as the fishing industry. So when we use fishing industry, don't quickly think of factories where fish processing is taking place. No, we are referring to the fishing activity. So use this as a activity. So what is fishing? This we have defined on many occasions. We're saying fishing is the extraction of aquatic life. And aquatic life means organisms, or let's say animals that live in water, as opposed to those that live on land. Those that live on land are called terrestrial organisms. So here we are talking about aquatic life. We are talking about extracting organisms or animals from the water bodies. That is the fishing we're talking about. So in East Africa, we know that most times when we talk about fishing, we are referring to the catching of fish. So fishing here will be regarded as the catching of fish or the extraction of aquatic life. We are using the aquatic life because whereas we always believe that it is basically fish, that's why we're saying fishing, that there are even other animals which may not necessarily be fish, but live in the water. That's why we are using aquatic life. Some of these creatures or animals or products that we get from the water bodies in this context of fishing include shrimps. That's some organisms. You cannot call them fish. Whereas some people may think that that is all fish, but the shrimps are simply organisms that are, are eaten but got from the sea. We have lobsters. These are all animals living in water. We have lobsters, we have crabs, and many others. So all those collectively, when they are extracted from the water bodies, that's what we are terming as fish. It's not only uh, extracting fish, as we know, it is extracting organisms that we get from the water bodies that we use either as food or for other purposes. We may get them for extraction of oil, in case, for example, in some countries which are developed, they even get wells. They catch wells and then extract oil from them. So that is also regarded as fishing. So this is what we're talking about here. Now, when we come here in East Africa and we're talking about fishing, we are going to look at two categories or types of fishing. So the types of fishing, or categories of fishing are two. For the case of East Africa, one is called marine fishing. When we say marine, in most cases, we mean marine means seawater or ocean water. So it implies, therefore, that when we talk about marine fishing, we are talking about fishing from the sea or from the ocean. Now let's come to East Africa. East Africa has the opportunity of sharing the waters of the Indian Ocean. That is, Kenya, Tanzania have the opportunity of sharing the waters of the Indian Ocean. And therefore, the extraction of aquatic life from the Indian Ocean along the Kenyan and Tanzanian coasts is what we are terming as marine fishing. And that is fishing that is carried out in salt waters of the sea or ocean. So the major aspect here is that the waters of the sea are salty. So fishing from salt waters, that is sea or from the ocean. Now, do we have this in East Africa? Yes. Kenya and Tanzania obtain their fish from, among other areas, the Indian Ocean. So the Indian Ocean is one of the fishing grounds of East Africa, particularly for Kenya and Tanzania. So they get fish from the Indian Ocean. And the fish or the fish species that are got from this Indian Ocean are not as the ones we have in our lakes and rivers, the inland lakes and rivers. So in East Africa, this marine fishing from the Indian Ocean, that is Tanzania and Kenya, obtains or gives us or provides us with fish species such as we have the sardines. So we're talking about the fish species, marine fish species in East Africa. The marine fish species in East Africa, we have the sardines. We also have one called the tuna. They also catch a species called the queenfish. They also catch a species called goatfish. So that now looks like it is the shape of a goat. So goatfish. Also, there is a species called prawns. And there's also another one called marlin fish. Marine fish. This marine fish is has the mouth is the shape of a sword. It can also be referred to as a swordfish. Also the shape of its mouth or head, it's like a sword. So it's called the swordfish. These are some of the fish species that I got from the Indian Ocean. So in Kenya and Tanzania, you'll find those species of fish on the market or being eaten or enjoyed by the people coming from the Indian Ocean. So we are calling them marine fish species. But also, like we said, it's not only fish. They also get from the Indian Ocean. They also get aquatic life like oysters. They also get crabs and then lobsters. These are all obtained from the Indian Ocean. What am I trying to consider here? That we are saying marine fishing is one of the types of fishing carried out in East Africa, and this is fishing done in salt waters of the sea or the ocean. And in East Africa, this is done in the Indian Ocean, that is in Kenya and Tanzania. And this gives or yields or depends on fish species such as sardines, tuna, uh, queenfish, goldfish, prawns, and marlin or the swordfish. But we're also saying they also obtain these other uh, items or products, that is oysters, crabs, and lobsters from the Indian Ocean. And that is what we are terming as marine fishing. Hope you're noting. I can I can refer to the notes that have been uploaded, so you can follow from the notes. So we have captured all these. So hope you have noted and you can also follow that from the notes. Then we go to another type of fishing that is carried out in East Africa. We said there are two types of fishing carried out in East Africa. So the second type is freshwater fishing. Remember, we said marine fishing is fishing from salt water. So you can also regard it as or call it saltwater fishing. Now here we are saying freshwater fishing, or you can call it fresh fishing. That's to make it sound more meaningful. We are saying freshwater fishing, and that outrightly means it is fishing which is carried out in freshwater bodies or inland water bodies, such as from lakes, from rivers, and from swamps. So here we have waters which are fresh, they are free from salt. And so here we are saying it is fresh water fishing, fishing done in freshwater bodies such as lakes, rivers, and swamps. And in East Africa, this is the most common, this is the most dominant type of fishing we have. And here, the species of fish that are caught majorly will include, we have our tilapia. That one is the most common, that is the ngege. We have the Nile perch, our imputa. We have the lungfish, that is a mallet. We have the mudfish, which is and from the swamps, because we say this is freshwater fishing. We have the catfish. Catfish, I don't know how we call this one in Uganda. We have catfish. We also have another species called a dagger. It's called dagger. That is a silver fish. Okay. So the other name for that, I mean for mukene or is I mean for silverfish is dagger. So you can call it dagger. Then we also have bagas, kenje, and bagas. So another species. We also have one called clarias, etc., etc. All those are fish species that we have here in East Africa obtained from fresh water bodies. I'm, I'm being guided by because uh, studying a topic and understanding it is one thing, but applying it to answer questions is another. So normally, sometimes we are guided by sample questions. We go to the QB, we find the I don't remember they are very well. They are asking distinguish between fresh, I mean marine and fresh water fish, something of that kind. They're also asking their students to identify or give the species of fish in each case. That is fish species caught under marine fishing and those that are caught under uh, fresh water fishing. So we are prepared for that. Now, that is fishing in East Africa, which is categorized into those two, that is marine fishing and freshwater fishing, and we have tried to show that they are different species. So it implies that these fish species here are those that survive in fresh waters. Then the others we gave survive in uh, salty waters. Now, at this stage, I want us to look at the notes and we get to look at that sketch map. I didn't want to so much go down starting to mention the different fishing grounds that we have in East Africa. So I just wanted to bring this on a sketch map. Now, our sketch map here is showing the major fishing grounds in East Africa. Major fishing grounds in East Africa. There is that map there. You can have a view of it, those that have accessed the notes, and I hope everybody has done so. Now, you discover that we have the Indian Ocean. We said that is Kenya, Tanzania coast. Then we also have the inland water bodies, basically lakes and rivers. I've tried to capture a few uh, fishing grounds, along these, a few landing sites and ports. It is landing sites and ports along the lakes, along lake shores and along the coast of Kenya and Tanzania. Now, in East Africa, we said we have marine fishing, and when you check on our map, we have the Indian Ocean there, where we have different ports. Those are ports, as we know, they are ports, but one of the factors for their development was fishing. So the fishing activity contributed greatly to the development of those areas which we have there along the coast as ports. But that means therefore that they still serve as fishing ports, because the fish caught is landed there for processing and then for dispatched to markets inland. For example, in Tanzania, we have Dar es Salaam. It is a port, but it also serves as a fish port or fish landing port, we can call it. So we have Tanga, we also have Mtwara. Then we go to Kenya, along the coast, we have Mombasa, we have Malindi, and we also have Lamu. We also have islands. These are very important because being within the ocean, they become areas where the fishermen can first collect the catch before it is dispatched to the coastal ports for dispatch into the inland markets. Then we have there Pemba, we have Zanzibar, we have Mafia. All those are islands which are very important in as far as marine fishing in East Africa is concerned. Then we come inland. Inland we have lakes. Let's start from home. That is Uganda. You have Lake Victoria. I didn't name that one, but I didn't name actually all these lakes, but you can name them. So we have Victoria. We have Lake Victoria there, which is shared by the three countries. So the Ugandan side, we have Ginger. There is one to the west of Lake Victoria within Uganda. That place I did not name it. It is called that's the Entebbe. So Entebbe is a collection of many places there. So I wanted to bring it as one that is Entebbe. So we have Ginger, Entebbe, and many others. You know the landing sites that we have along Lake Victoria. Kasenyi, we have Katusi, we have there are so many. Then when you go to Kenya, basically, of course, Kenya has the smallest share of the Lake Victoria, has Kisumu there. Then we have Tanzania, which has Musoma, has Mwanza, has Bukoba, and many others. But those are the major ones that we wanted to capture. Then when we go to Lake Choga, this is ours typically, because we don't share it with any other country. In the north of Lake Choga, we have Namasale. That's not Namaso, it is Namasale. So it is SALE, Namasale, learning site. We have Lare, that is the Teso side. The other one is Lango side, which is Namasale. We have Lare, Teso side. We have Luampanga. Luampanga is that is the Nakasongola, because Nakasongola goes up to the shore. So those are some of the major learning sites there. So Luampanga, Namasale, Lare, those are learning sites on Lake Choga. Then on Lake Albert, Lake Albert in the west. Lake Albert, our side, we have Toroko as a learning site. We also have Butiaba and many others, they are there. But we are looking at these two as the major ones. When you go to Lake George, so move from Lake Albert, you come down, you have Lake George. We have there Kashenyi, not Kasenyi, that one is called Kashenyi. This one on Lake Victoria is called Kasenyi, it is SE. Now the other one on Lake George in Kasese is Kashenyi. Kashenyi, because it is named after the sun, which is deposited there. So like the Kassenyi is an area covered by sun. That's why they call it Kassenyi. Then the other one, because of change of language, the other one is called Kashenyi, but they are meaning something. So Lake George has Kashenyi, and then on Lake Edward, we have Katwe learning site. Not Katwe here in Kampala. We're talking about the Katwe Lake Edward in Kasese, because these two are found within Kasese. Then when we go to Tanzania, we captured basically these two lakes, major lakes where fishing is carried out. That is Lake Tanganyika. I hope you can name Lake Tanganyika very clear there. It's not named. I did not name the lakes, but Lake Tanganyika is there. We have captured two major landing sites there. There is Kigoma and Kasanga. So those two. So Kigoma, north, and then Kasanga in the south, southern shores of Lake Tanganyika. Then when we go to Lake Malawi or Lake Nyasa, we have Chela as a major landing site there. So we have northern shores of Lake Nyasa or Lake Malawi. We have that landing site called Chela. Then we have River Rufiji. River Rufiji has several other tributaries, but we are indicating River Rufiji. So some fishing takes place there. Then when we go to Tanzania, we have already talked about those ones along the coast. That is marine fishing. We are talking about inland fishing or freshwater fishing. We have in Kenya, we have basically captured the Lake Turkana. That is with two landing sites there. We have Kalokol to the west, and then Loyangalani. Loyangalani as a landing site there, Lake Turkana to the east. Then we also have rivers Tana, River Athi, River Galana, which are also fishing grounds. Why I'm emphasizing this? So in some cases, you will find very simple questions in the objective type questions. Somebody just picks one learning site and says, for example, uh, Kigoma learning site is situated on lake, then puts their alternatives. So you must be able to identify the major learning sites that are found on these different uh, water bodies or lakes, which serve as our fishing grounds. Having looked at this map, we can improve. There is a lot of other information that we can put here. Somebody will ask, we have very many lakes, especially in the Rift Valley, but we are not emphasizing them. Yes, they are not so known or not commonly used for fishing. Some of them are too deep, others are too small or narrow. Some have components or ingredients in their waters. For example, we talk of Lake Magadi is a river lake, and it has a soda ash, so fishing is not taking place there. So they have their own problems why they are not so useful as far as fishing is concerned. So uh, that was the best way I thought we would look at the fishing grounds of East Africa, because me and identifying them would not have helped us so much. So I've chosen to identify them with a map that brings a little more information. So we have summarized that bit in that form. So having looked at the fishing grounds that we have in East Africa, let's quickly go through the fishing methods that are used in East Africa. And in this case, uh, I am not going to overemphasize them because I think this is a repeat of what we have done in paper two. We must have started fishing in British Columbia. The methods were ably described, and I believe the same will be done when you go to the rest of Africa, fishing in Africa. Same thing is done. So I don't want us to waste a lot of time describing these methods, drawing and etc. So, but it's going to be only identifying. So they're saying in East Africa, the fishing is also in two categories. We have modern and traditional. So there are methods that are traditional. They are subsistence methods. What do I mean? That somebody only gets the catch or the fish for home consumption. Only if there is some excess that he can get some money from, then the selling will be done. But in majority of cases, it's for go to the water bodies, go to the lake or the river. Somebody goes to the lakeside or river, uh, riverside, and then catches two, three uh, uh, pieces of fish, then brings home for home use or consumption. That is what we are calling subsistence fishing, which does not basically look at making money. Now, in this fishing, the methods that are used are those that bring very little catch. They bring very little catch, and these methods include hooking. That's what we call angling. Of course, it's called angling because the equipment or the structure of the equipment creates an angle. So that's why we call it angling. That's the use of the hook. And somebody uses a single hook at a time. So you bring one fish at a time. So here is person has a stick which he has a string. Between the string and there is a hook. The hook is given a bait. Then this one is a floater. So we have the float, something like a cock that will float on water. So when you get hold of the stick, you drop. After putting the bait on the hook, you drop this bait, hook into the water. The float remains on the water surface. Then when the fish comes to eat the bait, a piece of meat or small fish or silver fish. So when the fish comes to eat the bait, then it is caught by the mouth. It is hooked. So what will show that there is something tampering with the hook is the float will begin shaking or moving as the fish struggles to get off the hook and therefore pull out. So this structure here forms an angle. That's why we call it angling. So this is the angling method of hooking. So you get one fish at a time. So you have sometimes wait for a little longer before you get the catch. And so that is tradition or local subsistence method of fishing. Use of basket traps. I have sample of a basket trap in the geography room. I've not brought it, but just a basket which has some opening and it is some funnel shaped. So the weave basket is weaved. So this is the opening of the basket. So sometimes they let this opening open, then put baits in here inside. So pieces of meat or small fish, you put inside, you dip this in the water, and then maybe you tie it or you shield it with sticks or stones around so that it does not float or it is not swept away by the currents. So when the fish comes looking for the bait you have put here, it enters here. Now this opening is made in such a way that when the fish forces itself to enter, it can easily go. But when it's coming out, it cannot because as it forces itself into here, this opens, but it cannot open it from inside. So whatever comes in is now found there. So after some hours, this person comes and because sometimes they put in the evening. So by morning, you simply come to collect the catch from the basket. That is use of basket traps. Then use of arrows or spearing. Somebody in the shallow waters, especially in the swampy areas, you find somebody with a spear, some kind of a spear or an arrow, but simply randomly shoots in the water. So by luck, if you shoot or you get the fish, you just bring up. So as he spears, he, when he's bringing it out, doesn't just pull. So he tries to lift. So when he feels there's some weight, then knows there's something there. So sometimes you find him coming out with some fish. That is use of arrows or spearing. Then there is also the lampara, lamp attraction. This, though it is a traditional, but it is a commercial in a way because it is used to catch silver fish. Mukene. Mukene is simply attracted by light. So we are calling it lamp attraction. That is the lampara method. The person on a boat, uh, they put some kind of a sheet. Uh, it can be a tapling or some kind of a mat or a sheet can be metallic, whatever it is, on the boat, and then they put a lamp. Those pressure lamps. Actually, they use pressure lamps. Ones we call steamer. So pressure lamp, then you press the pressure lamp on that sheet, and then you go at night when it is dark. Actually, that method is not very effective during the moon or in the day. It's completely not applicable. Even during the season when the moon is up, the light at night, the moonlight at night also affects the catch. But they always do it effectively during the dark nights. So when it's dark, they put the light there, and then the mukene simply jumps from the water, coming the light. just like attracting and sailing. So that's how the mukene is caught, and that is the lampara method. That's why you call it lampara from the word lamp. So lamp attraction. So those are traditional methods which normally bring small fish uh, amounts, mainly for home consumption, not so much commercial. Apart from the lampara I've talked about, that is for mukene. Mukene basically is for market, because we know.
What about basket? Basket trap.
Basket trapping, I've explained. This one is not so much commercial because also the amount of fish caught here is not so much. The baskets are not really that very big, so it is unless when somebody yes can, but still the scale of 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 operation is small. Even if you have like 3, 4 baskets, you put. So if you found 3 here, 2 in another one in another. So even when you collect, that's not so much commercial. And in any case, you're only going around to find somebody who buys them, a few people, and then you're done. Not like the other methods that we have yet talk about, which are commercial, that somebody gets a truck of fish to supply to a factory, for example, for fish processing. Then we have the modern fishing methods, the ones that I've said we have seen in British Columbia. Those are the ones that I'm not going to so much explain because we have seen them. But one thing that we should be able to describe them in situations where this is required. For example, we have gill netting, that's like a tense net where it's spread in the water, floats up, and then we have the sinkers or the weights down so that it is stretched in the water. And then when the fish is moving, the counters it, the head goes through the mesh of the net, but then it cannot pull back, neither can it go through because the head is smaller, the ending of the head is smaller, but the behind or the mid part of the fish is bigger, so it cannot go through the mesh. So that is the fish gets caught by the gills, or you can call it that's why we call it gill netting. Fish is netted or caught by the gills. There's beach sailing, where you have that you collect the fish around, close it, and then collect it within that area. So that is called the sailing. That is called beach because it's done near the beach, near the shores or near the coast. Then we have drifting, a drifter net. That is also another net kind of, which is spread in the water but using vessels, and then you collect the fish within the area that has been enclosed. We have passy sailing, which is the other was beach sailing. This one is passy sailing. This one you go deep into the waters, and then beach sailing you are just near the shore or near the the coast. Then we have troweling, a trowel net. It is a net but in the shape of a basket, like the other basket trap. It is a funnel shaped but very big. So it is attached to the vessel or the fishing boat, and then the mouth is kept open. The bottom of it or the end of it is closed or narrow and closed. So as it is pulled within the water, whichever fish that moves in the opposite direction of the net enters it, and as the boat goes, it carries everything that is in its way. Sometimes you find frogs there, snakes, and etc., including dead bodies in case some people drowned in the sand. And then you collect and remove the fish. Then we also have the one called long lining. We say the other one was angling, use a single hook, but then we have long lining. This is use hooks, but several. There are very many hooks we put on the long line. So there's a long string, very strong, with hooks at different intervals. And then every hook is given a bait. Then you put everything in the water, attach the main line to the vessel or the boat, and then you go sailing So as fish comes, the fish will now be following the line, looking for the baits that you put on the hooks. So after some time, after moving some distance, then you pull the line into the vessel and you start removing the catch in case you've got. So that's called the long lining. It is also commercial because as opposed to the single line, which is the angling method, this one brings a lot of catch at the time. So these methods are commercial in a way that they catch large quantities of fish and for commercial purposes because all that fish cannot be for merely home consumption. So people use them for getting money out of them. Then those are methods of fishing. Now, before we go into other details, we also need to consider the aspect of fish preservation. The fish preservation methods that we have or that we use here in East Africa. That not all the fish that is caught goes to the market in its fresh form. Even that which goes in fresh form sometimes has to go through some process so that we preserve it. So, especially the fish that we are not going to have it, that we are not going to have consumed immediately or shortly, it has to be preserved. It must go through a process so that it can be consumed at a later stage. But still here, we shall consider two categories of methods of preserving fish that are used in East Africa. There are those methods which are traditional, which are local, and they also have those that are modern, especially where we are talking about fish that must be preserved for the export market, for the external market. Because given the long distances, we cannot take this fish in fresh form and it remains fresh for all those many days before it goes bad. So they say the fish that is caught in East Africa is preserved through two forms of methods. The ones that are traditional and those that are modern. The traditional methods. But when I say the traditional are bad methods, but traditional methods include smoking. You smoke the fish. Now, in this method, trying to demonstrate, in this method, that is the fish smoking, a pit is dug. Dug a pit. I mean, you dig a pit. So a pit is dug, and on this pit, this is what a square. Now, on this pit, they put, it can be wood or metallic bars. And then a wire mesh is put, because now these metallic bars are to support the wire mesh. So the wire mesh is placed on those bars. Now, within the pit, fire is set. But the issue is not to burn the fish, but to generate the smoke. But not necessarily the smoke again, it is some heat. But that heat comes with the smoke. That's why smoked fish is always dark because of the smoke. So the fire inside the pit here is set. Sometimes they will even put some fresh pieces of wood, some leaves, so that this fire does not burn directly to get to the fish. So that there is heat generated. So now on the wire mesh, that's why you put the fish. So the fish is placed here on the wire mesh, and then the fire set. So the smoke and some heat, regulated heat, comes through the fish, so that this fish is dried. So the heat dries the fish. That is hot air in simple terms. So not necessarily the smoke that we want, but the hot air that comes from the pit dries this fish, and that is the method we are talking about. That is the most traditional method of preserving fish here in East Africa. Then the other one is the sun drying. But you can also call it salting. You can separate the two, or you can take it as one. Because why I'm saying they can be separated, when we say sun drying, the fish that is cooked is simply put in the open and then dried by the heat of the sun. So the heat from the sun dries the fish. And this is very common with our mokene, the silver fish. This is the most effective method of preserving mokene. They simply dry it. So, but in some cases, if you are also going to use sun drying when it is not mokene or silver fish, sometimes the fish is cut open. So you split the fish, make it open, and then you sprinkle salt onto the fish. Now the work of the salt is to dehydrate that fish. And then you lay it in the open sun, and then it dries. So it is a combination of both the salt that is dehydrating it, and then the heat of the sun. So that's why we are saying it can be sun dried or salted put together. So that is another method that is used. Then we also have deep frying. For those that enjoy mamba and etc., even these days they even fry every type of fish, even if it is tilapia, they can fry it for you. You eat it there and then. So you can have it for days also, because the deep fried fish can also stay for some days as compared to the fresh one. So that is also another method of preserving fish. So the fish is deep fried in cooking oil and then kept for days or eaten directly as a method of preserving. So these are traditional methods of fish preservation. But we also have, and some people will even tell you that cooking is also another method of preserving fish. Because when you cook the fish, you get fresh fish, cut into pieces, cook it, so you can eat it today, tomorrow, and the other day. You simply keep warming. So that is also one way of preserving. So if you want, you can also put cooking as another method of preserving fish. But then the modern ones. So these ones are traditional, local. But we have modern ones, and one of them is the refrigeration. Or we can call it icing. So the fish is iced, is kept fresh by putting it into refrigerated trucks. These are trucks, the refrigerators. So fresh fish is placed there and it can be transported to distant markets. It can be transported from distant landing sites to processing factories, and it gets there when it is fresh, because the processing factories need or require fresh fish. That's the same as icing. Even locally, refrigeration can be done locally. You have containers where they put ice. So if you are going to a landing site, for example, if somebody is dealing in fish and you are going, for example, to collect fish from Gaba or from Kasey, you have your container, you put in the ice, or you can find the ice because there are even ice plants at some of these landing sites. So you get there, you first get the ice, put in your container, then buy your fish, put in that container, close. So you can get that fish now, and you can even sell it tomorrow. Or you've got it now, and you're going to sell it in the evening because it remains fresh because of the icing. So that's what we are calling refrigeration or icing. And then the other one is fish canning. That is what is done in the factories. Fish canning, fresh fish is got, taken to the factories, cut into pieces, and most times they only take the fresh without bones, so they leave the bones behind. So they get off the, the fish cuttings, those fresh fish cuttings without bones, then they put it into cans or tins with the preservatives in. So that is the factory processing, which we are terming as fish canning. That is also another method of fish preservation that is used here in East Africa. So these are the common methods of preserving fish that we use here in East Africa, that we are using here in East Africa. And having seen what fishing is, the types of fishing in East Africa, the fishing grounds that we have in East Africa. Then we have also seen the fishing methods and then fish preservation methods. At this point, I want us to go ahead and look at the factors which have favored the development of the fishing industry in East Africa. Factors that have favored the development of the fishing industry in East Africa. So we're saying in East Africa, fishing has been successful, or fishing is carried out because of a number of conditions. What are these conditions? I have carefully tried to categorize them, although that's not very important, but it is very common, always or important, that when we are talking about factors, we must always have it in our minds that we are talking about two categories of factors, those which are physical and those which are human. So when you're talking about the physical factors that are promoted or favored the development of fishing in East Africa, I have the following. So we can talk of one, presence of extensive marine and freshwater bodies. So here we're talking about extensive water bodies. So we have extensive meaning large, very large marine and freshwater bodies. So the water bodies, we know that they are both those which are marine, salty water, and those which are fresh water bodies. That these ones offer very extensive or very large fishing grounds, which are rich in fish such as we have the Indian Ocean, we have Lake Victoria, and Lake Tanganyika. Now these are very large water bodies, and given the fact that they are large, they give us an extensive area where fishing is carried out. And the bigger the area, other factors remain constant, the higher the amount of fish you can get because you have an extensive area from which to extract the aquatic life. As we say that fishing is a extraction of aquatic life. So presence of extensive water bodies is one of the factors that facilitates the involvement of the fishing industry in East Africa. Number two, we are looking at physical factors. The presence of extensive coastline or shorelines. So, saying extensive coastline or shoreline. I hope you know why we're saying this. That if it's coastline, we are talking about the coast of Kenya, Tanzania, the Indian Ocean. Then shoreline, we are talking about our lakes. But these ones have extensive, very long, very wide coastline along the coast of Kenya and Tanzania, and very long and wide shorelines along Lake Victoria, Lake Choga, Lake Tanganyika, Lake Turkana. Mention them. That those have got extensive shorelines with the shallow continental shelf, which provide a wide breeding ground for fish. Now, this is what we are saying. When we say continental shelf, shallow continental shelf. This one we are attributing it to fish breeding. What is continental shelf? If, for example, this is the land, then you have the water body. So if this is a shoreline, then you have the water body. Let's have two situations. This is land, and this is water body. So when you look at this, if this is land, for example, and this is the water body, same applies to this. So when you come from the land, this is the water body. This is land, this is water body. If you are coming from here, coming down into the water body or moving to the water body, what you see here in the first case is that here, the shallow part of this water body is very small because the water body depth sharply goes down very quickly, shortly after getting from the land to the water body. Here it is deep. So here we shall say we have a narrow and deep continental shelf. Now the continental shelf is that part of the water body, that bottom of the water body adjacent or next to the coast of the shoreline. So this section here is the continental shelf. So here we're saying this kind of continental shelf may not be so good for the fishing activity. When it comes to this second illustration, that from here, from the land here, you see that the depth of the sea is not so high as you move away from the land into the water body. You have to move a long distance before you get into the deeper waters of this water body. So this stretch here, the whole stretch here, is shallow. So this part of this water body, the bottom of the water body, which is adjacent to the land, which we are calling the continental shelf, is wide and shallow. Blind data for that. This area, for us, we are attributing this to fish breeding. That when fish wants to lay eggs or to breed, it is not always
It will not always lay eggs in the deeper waters here. It has to move to the shallow waters near the coast or along or near the shoreline. So this area here, which is shallow and wide, provides a wide breeding ground for fish. And when the fish has a very big area to breed from, it means that the rate at which fish will multiply or the rate at which fish will produce will be so high, and that will be helping the fishing industry to develop. That's why we are saying an extensive coastline or shoreline with a shallow continental shelf that provides a good ground for fish breeding. Then the other factor is the presence of unindented coastline as well as shorelines. I'm hoping that we are trying to transfer knowledge from British Columbia to East Africa now when we talk of indented coastline. Very particular here, coastline and shorelines. When I say coastline, we are referring to the coast of East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania. And when I say shoreline, we are referring to along our lakes. So what we are observing here is that when we say indented, if this is our coast, so if this is the water body and this is land, this is the water, and inside here we have the land. So this is opposed to a situation where you have this. This is water, and this is land. So this one is called an indented coastline or shoreline. If this is the lake or the ocean and this is the land, means that this coastline or shoreline is not straight, it's not flat. It has these projections. If you recall our coastal geomorphology, we'll be talking about the bays, because this is water. We shall be talking about the headland. Because an indented coastline or shoreline will always have this. Has bays, which is water projection into the land, and headlands, which is land projection into the water body. So you have bays and headlands. So we are saying that this indentedness, when you have this kind of coast or shoreline, then the indentedness, the bays and headlands are not seen. So we can say this is more or less straight, although it's not straight as a line should be, but it has less of these projections of water into the land or land into the water body. So this kind of coastline or shoreline is good for the development of ports and landing sites. So these sites, those projections of water and land, respectively, will always be good sites or grounds for development or establishment of ports and the landing sites. So we're saying, being that we have an indented coastline along the coast of East Africa, then we also have indented shorelines along our lakes. For example, Lake Victoria and Lake Kyoga have indented shorelines. These areas have provided numerous sites, very many sites,
which are good for the development of ports and landing sites, for example, along the shores of Lake Victoria or Lake Chog as well. Then the other factor that has also contributed to the development of the fishing industry in East Africa is the existence of abundant fish species. So we have abundance of fish species with a high commercial value. Commercial or market value. So we are noting that East Africa has got several fish species which have got a good market value, and this has contributed to the development of fishing. Because of the market value, that means that their demand on the local and international market is high, and that encourages fishermen to catch the fish. So we are saying this is existence of abundant fish species of high commercial value has encouraged commercial fishing. We can talk of our tilapia, say that is it again. We have the Nile perch, and also the sardines from the Indian Ocean. These are very good fish species that provide the basis for the development of the fishing industry in Uganda. Because of their high commercial value, they are highly demanded, and that encourages the fishermen to do the fish catching. The other factor contributing to the sector of fishing in East Africa is the existence of well oxygenated waters. The fish or aquatic life generally requires oxygen. You still remember our oxygen morphology when we were talking about conditions for the formation of coral reefs. When we said well oxygenated water in which polyps live, and then they have food to eat, then the coral polyps feed on that kind of thing. So we're also saying that equally the waters we have, especially the fresh waters, even the salty waters of the Indian Ocean, are well oxygenated that support fish growth and multiplication. Multiplication is production. So that the fish in these water bodies with sufficient oxygen, the fish grows very well and very fast, and also produces at a higher rate, hence supporting the fishing industry. Then we also observing that there is a presence of abundant supply of planktons. So we have abundant supply of planktons. Plankton is simply tiny organisms that live in water that the fish feeds on. So the planktons are fish feed, which support a large fish population that supports the fishing industry. So we're saying the abundant supply of the planktons, which serve as food for the fish, enables the existence of too much fish in our water bodies. That's what we are terming as the fish population. That because of the abundance of food in the waters, there is a lot of fish in our waters, and the existence of a lot of fish in our waters has supported the development of the fishing industry. Because most times, it's only in a few cases that we try to restock our waters. But it's not a very common thing. Restocking waters means that you allow the young fish, or you introduce fish fries. That's the young fish, the small fish, young fish. So you breed fish from somewhere, then you carry the young fish called fries and take them to the water body
and then you allow them some time to grow before you do the fishing. But that is not so much done. So, but in East Africa, the fishing activity is continuous. We do carry out the fishing continuously. And if it was not that we have sufficient amount of fish or we have a large fish population, then we will not be having fishing as of now. But we are saying because we have abundant supply of the food, there is food for the fish, therefore we have a large fish population that has helped sustain the fishing industry of East Africa. The other factor is the uh, large supply of wood fuel. We have a large supply of wood fuel. And when we say wood fuel, you automatically know that we have been talking about the methods of fish preservation, and one of the most common, especially fish preserved for the local market, has been smoking. And so we are saying a large supply of wood fuel from the forests is used for smoking of fish, which is a popular fish preservation method. So this helps to preserve and preserve fish and minimize losses by the fishermen. And therefore, it encourages them to continue practicing the fishing activity, therefore promoting the development of the fishing industry. Then the other factor is a large supply of timber from the various forests. Or somebody would have wished that we put this one as existence of forests that provide wood fuel and timber. But we wanted to break because in the two cases we have different purposes or different roles. So we said in wood fuel it is for preservation, and then supply of timber from the various forests, and this timber is used in the building of fishing vessels, and this is a major input in the fishing industry. So the timber we have, or the timber we obtain from the various forests that we have in East Africa, help in uh, building fishing vessels that provide the most required or the most important fishing equipment or input for the development of the fishing industry in East Africa. The other, now, basically, I would say, basically, here we have tried to categorize these as physical or natural factors. But these are natural. The water bodies are natural. The coastlines being extensive, that is natural, that is God given. The netted coastlines and shorelines, that is God given. The fish species being here in large numbers or in their varieties is also natural, God given. Waters being well oxygenated, that is God given. The supply of plankton is, or having very many plankton is in the waters, is also God given. The wood, most of the forests we are talking about are God given. The same, the forest given to us by God, provide us with the timber. That is all natural factors. So, because there are many factors that we can talk about as favoring the development of the fishing industry in East Africa, one may specifically require you to talk about the physical. And this is a challenge to many of us. There are so many of us who mix up these things. When somebody tells us, describe the physical factors, and then you find some talk about capital, labor, and etc. Those are not physical. So the physical ones are those to which man has no control, that they are God given. They are conditions that are created by God. Now we continue. We are not going to indicate that those are now physical, but it is just a matter of arrangement. We have started with the physical, so we can now go to the human. So we continue. The other one is availability of large sums of capital. So the capital for investment in the fishing activity. For example, capital needed for purchase of fish equipment such as vessels, fishing nets, capital for hiring or for paying the workers, those that are engaged or that are employed by the fishing activity directly, or those who uh, work in the fish processing factories and other related uh, activities. Then the other that so we are so talking about availability of large sums of capital provided by the private investors or private companies for the purchase of fishing equipment such as fishing vessels, fishing nets, and refrigerated trucks. Remember we talked about preservation as refrigeration, where trucks are used to transport the fish from the landing sites to market centers when it is fresh. So all those equipment require capital, and that capital has been provided basically by private companies or private individuals in the form of investors in the fishing sector. The other factor is the availability of abundant supply of skilled labor. So we have a lot of skilled labor that is available to carry out the fishing activity as well as the handling or processing of the fish catch. Because we also have factories that are engaged in a fish processing. So they also have skilled manpower to handle all the processing system there to produce best products for the local and the foreign market. So we say abundant supply of skilled labor has also contributed to the development of the fishing industry in East Africa. The other one is the supportive government policy, supportive government policy, because we are talking about governments of East Africa. Supportive government policy. The governments of East Africa give support or are seen giving support to the fishing industry, which has contributed to its development. For example, these governments of East Africa ensure control the fishing. So they support government policy through uh, ensuring control the fishing. You don't allow people to fish indiscriminately. You control people who use small nets, those who use the illegal methods. So fighting illegal fishing, for example, those that use poisoning, so fish poisoning. So all that is illegal fishing. Catching young fish is illegal. So the governments of East Africa are ensuring that this illegal fishing is dealt with, then encouraging private investors to invest into the fishing sector are all some of the measures or the attempts by the governments of East Africa to support the fishing industry. So that's what we're calling supportive government's policy. Then the other one is the availability of ready domestic and foreign market for fish. That the fish caught here, that is ready domestic and foreign market for fish, which has encouraged large scale commercial fishing. Because what is caught is sold. What is caught finds market so easily because the market is readily available. So none of the catch goes bad before reaching the market because people are readily taking the fish. So that means that the fishermen are encouraged. The companies engaged in this are encouraged. So this has contributed to the development of the fishing industry because the market is readily available both locally. When I say local or domestic, I don't mean one country, I mean the regional market. That is what we're talking about East Africa. So I'm saying the regional market is readily available just as the foreign market. Because some of the fish you have here, for example, the Royal Perch and then the tilapia are widely demanded because they are very good. Then the other factor of condition that has supported the development of the fishing industry in East Africa is the introduction of modern methods of fishing. Remember, we talked about traditional and modern. So the modern methods have also come in. So their introduction in the fishing activity in East Africa has greatly contributed to the development of the fishing industry. So, modern methods such as sailing, traveling, and long lining, which yield a lot of fish catch, has or have promoted commercial fishing and therefore leading to the development of the fishing industry. So that's what we're calling introduction of modern methods of fishing. Then the other one, we're not looking at human, there are quite many. The other one is the introduction of modern fish preservation methods. The methods of preservation have also improved just because of the introduction of the modern ones, such as refrigeration and canning, which have led to improved quality of the fish and fish products, hence increased demand. That the marketability, it is easy now to market the fish from East Africa because it has been handled using modern methods, has been preserved using modern methods. So, the introduction of those methods like refrigeration and canning have improved the quality, which has also led to improved marketability of the fish catch from East Africa, therefore contributing to the development of the fishing industry. Then the other factor is the availability of a well-developed transport network. Well-developed transport network of roads that connect to the major landing sites, to the major ports, which has enabled the easier transportation of fishing equipment or fishing inputs. So transportation of fishing inputs to the fishing sites and then transportation of the fish catch to the market centers or to the markets. That the roads, although we are not saying they are very good roads, but at least the major ports, I'm being very specific here, we say major connecting to the major ports and landing sites, that these ones have eased the transportation of fishing inputs. The materials we need to use in the fishing can easily be transported to those fishing areas or sites, and even the catch, the fish caught, is easily transported to the markets using these well-developed road networks. Some of them may not be standard roads, but at least there is easier movement because the maram roads have been developed. That is what we can say about the conditions or the factors that have facilitated or that have led to the development of the fishing industry in East Africa. And there are quite many, I must say. I always enjoy saying that you don't have to eat the whole bull in order to know that the meat is good or lean. You just need the piece. So once I give you all these factors about 16 or what, that you do not have to struggle. If, for example, if you answer the question or remember our questions, only ask for bits. They have subsections. So you have a subsection that is asking for factors that have favored the development of the fishing industry in East Africa. And then somebody gives all the 16. Yes, it would be okay, but there is no extra mark that will be given. So if they have put that and they have put maybe 6 marks, that means that even if you gave all the 16, or even if there are 20 and you gave all of them, the maximum remains 6 marks. Implying therefore that we're only testing. Can you describe the factors? And remember, the factors must be described. The factors must be described. Don't simply say, and for example, people say favorable government policy. Favorable. How favorable? What do you mean? So we are saying supportive. Supportive. So the descriptive term there is supportive. Abundant supply. So abundance is what we are bringing as the adjective describing. So we are describing the factors or conditions. So that's what we are looking for. We are looking for for numbers that you have volumes of factors, but the few factors you are able to give us, are they well described as required? We just need you to demonstrate that you can tell us the factors. So most times the marks that are put against the question will tell us what to do. And sometimes, for example, the maximum you have, if they're asking for factors, the maximum you can have is 8 marks. So to have the 8 marks, you don't need 16 points, 16 factors. You need 8. That is 8 in case they are giving 1 mark for every factor, or it can even be 8, but when they are saying N4 times 2, so either way. So why I'm saying you should, if they have said 8 marks, then make sure you give 8 at least. You have 16 now. If you are saying give 8, this is half of this. So if you get the 8 well spent, if they are using this, you still have the 8. If they are using this, you even have the 8. And doesn't mean that you get a bonus mark because you have given 8 when they are using 4 by 2. So don't need to give all the 16. So sometimes some people get scared. And even when we are in class teaching, some people, oh, in a lesson like this, people will say, but those are already too many. That's enough. People want to say that's enough. No, we must have the variety so that when we get to paper and we are answering questions, we can easily remember the few that will help us score maximum marks for that particular part or subsection of the question. So that is about the factors that have favored fishing in East Africa. And I don't think we have a lot of time left. We have 3 minutes to go. So I don't want to bring on board something new. I just wanted to re-emphasize, because we are supposed now to go to the benefits of the fishing industry of the people of East Africa. But that will be for another lesson. But I want to say that in this that we are looking at, we should not only look at the structured type questions. You discover that there are many objective type questions that you discover if you take time and look through past papers, those that have QBs. If you look into those past papers, those objective type questions, you see very many of these questions that are related to the fishing activity. There are questions relating to fishing grounds, questions relating to fishing type, relating to methods of fishing, relating to methods of fish preservation, relating to factors also. And we are going to see that there are also those that relate to problems. There are those that will relate to measures to promote or to improve fishing in different parts of East Africa. So when we are picking or trying to master knowledge about the fishing activity, we should be considerate about the various questions, both the structured and the objective type questions. And I wouldn't love to go beyond this because our time is almost up. I want to wish you good time until we meet for yet another lesson to continue with the fishing. And I hope that when we meet again, we shall simply wind up the remaining bits of this topic of fishing in East Africa. And if time still will allow us, we shall continue with the new other topics. Have a good day, and I must say bye bye. Huh? Hii imeshaplay. Thank you.